Hey everybody, welcome back. All right, so we have a few elements in our track, but it's by no means complete and we have a lot more to add before it really resembles a proper structured track. But I want to show you how to start adding plugins to your tracks in Ableton and introduce you to some of the basic but essential processes like EQ, sidechained compression, which we might get to in this lesson, and reverb. Now we'll start off with the easiest effect in Ableton, which is reverb. And reverb gives a sense of spaciousness and depth to any element you add it to. It's the easiest to add in Ableton as the default project comes with a reverb plugin already set up and ready to go as a global effect. So all you have to do is basically choose how much of any given element you want to send to it, and you'll get reverb on that particular element. So let's start with the clap. I'm just going to solo the clap. And you'll notice on the channel we have these two sort of sliders here which you can change, and if I want to add reverb to this clap, all I've got to do is turn up this first one. So I'll just play it. And you can hear the reverb on there. Now what's happening here is the signal of the clap is being sent to the reverb channel, and this reverb channel has this reverb plugin on it. The more of the clap signal I send through to the reverb, the more reverb you're going to hear. Now if we go to the actual reverb plugin, and if you haven't seen this yet, just double click on the reverb channel and this will pop up. And the most important setting that we have, really for beginners especially, is just the decay time. So if you want to have a longer reverb, then obviously we turn up the reverb time. And if you want to have a really short one, we turn down the reverb time. So we're going to set this roughly around 2.76. Like that length seems to sort of suit this track. And honestly, if you are sort of new to all of this music production stuff, I would literally leave it at that and not go into any more detail. You can, of course, experiment if you want to, but the stock reverb with a slightly increased decay time is absolutely fine and sufficient for this track. All right, so let's add some reverb to the hat as well. So I'm going to unsolo our clap and solo our hat. And all we got to do is turn up the send. Obviously, like having that much reverb is way too much. We want to be much more subtle than that. Probably somewhere like that. Let's have a listen in the mix. So I'm just sort of balancing out the reverb now on the clap and on the hat. So we don't want too much. Somewhere around there is absolutely fine. We can always change this later if we want. All right, so that's reverb on the clap and the hat. Now, what about the rest of the channels? Well, the instruments that we've got, the pluck and everything, already has reverb and delay on it from Vital, as you can hear, and also the bass sound has also got some reverb on it as well, which you can hear when I hit stop. So we don't need to add any to that. And the kick, well, the kick is kind of special. We don't really want to add reverb or any spatial effects to the kick, as we want it to remain as upfront and powerful as possible in the mix. So just to sort of explain a bit, when we add reverb to an element in our track, it not only adds a sense of spaciousness, it also has the effect of making that element appear further back in the mix, literally like it's further away from us. And the opposite is also true. So the less reverb or the less spaciousness it has, the closer it sounds to our ears. And as the kick is such a powerful driving element and needs to really cut through the mix at all times, I'm not going to add reverb to it in this case. Now, you can add reverb to a kick, but also you must be very careful not to make your mix sound muddy. So my advice, if you're new to music production, is just use reverb very minimally on your kicks, if at all. Some tracks will suit it more than others. All right, so that's it for reverb. Now I want to show you EQ, or equalization as it's known, and filters. And filters are just basically another form of EQ. And they simply allow us to change the balance of frequencies of any given sound. Now, if you remember, I called the reverb a global effect. That's because it has its own effects channel. And when it's set up like that, we can choose with these dials here to add reverb to any of the other channels in our track. So the EQ, that's going to be added as a local effect, which means that it will be specific just to the one channel. So I'm going to click on the clap channel because this is what we're going to add some EQ and filtering to. And we need to come to our media browser, come to audio effects, and we're going to go to EQ and filters. And then we've got the different plugins that are available to us. Now, if you go further and expand, what you'll see here is all the different presets that are there available for that particular plugin. We're not going to use a preset. We're going to start from scratch. And making sure that we've got the clap track selected, we're going to grab the auto filter and just drag that down here and add it to the effects rack. I'm also going to grab the channel EQ and do the same thing and just drop that after the filter. I'm also just going to solo the clap for now. Maybe just for a second, we're going to turn down the reverb just a little bit as well. Okay. Now we will be going into more depth about filtering and EQ later on in this tutorial, but for now I want you to learn one of the simplest and most common EQ techniques, which is removing unwanted low frequencies from a sound. To filter out the low end is very simple. We first need to just select the high pass filter mode, which is this little button right here, and then we just change the filter frequency to suit, as you can hear. Like the lower it goes, the more frequencies you hear, and as I raise it up, the more of the low frequencies are being cut out. And actually, you can see this reflected here in the channel EQ as well. So you can see when I have the sort of filter fully open, as it's known, we've got all of the frequencies being shown that are in the clap. And as I raise this up, you can see that we only have like the high frequencies. So what we want to do is just filter out any of this sort of noise down here. It's just like this bass noise or bass rumble. And the only thing we've got to be careful of is that we're not removing any of the clap sound, which sort of makes up the main body of the sound. So we don't want to take away any of the mid-range frequencies. Like somewhere around there is perfect. It's just taking out that sort of little bit of low end that you can see there. So that's absolutely fine. And it's as simple as that. Now with the channel EQ plugin, what we're going to do is actually boost some of the frequencies. So this is another really common technique. And what we do is we just boost some of the frequencies of a particular element to make it stand out compared to the rest of the mix. Very simple to do. What we're going to do is use the mid control here. And we're just going to boost that up. And as you can see, we're getting this sort of bell shape here. For now, we're going to boost it up about sort of 5 dBs, okay? This is just to sort of find out where we want to boost, and then we're going to back it off a bit. But in order to find it out, we want to have it around about 5 or 6 dBs. And then we're going to click here, drag up or down. And you can hear that the frequency sort of just changes. So as I move it up, the sound gets brighter. As I move it down, we're kind of like boosting the mid-range frequencies. I'm going to turn this up even a bit more actually to make this a bit more extreme. Okay, so now I want to play this with the mix. So I'm going to unsolo the clap. And I'm just going to do a sort of filter sweep to find the frequencies where the clap really sort of suddenly jumps out compared to the rest of the mix. So for me, that's definitely there. And like I said, I'm going to back off the mid now because boosting it by like 6 dBs or 8 dBs is pretty intense. So something like 2.9 dBs is going to be perfect. Just enough to give the clap a little bit more presence in the mix. We can also bypass an effect by clicking the little orange button there. You can hear when it's activated, it just sounds a bit more present than it did before. So that's perfect. And when it comes to EQ, that's like the second most common technique. So that is the basics of EQ. We've cut a bit out of the clap to just tidy up the sound, and we've boosted some of the frequencies to just make the clap a bit more present compared to the rest of the mix. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to get the bass and the pad to sound like they're sort of glued to the track using sidechain compression, which also helps the kick remain nice and big in the mix. Okay, so that's it for the 3 lessons of the tutorial. I hope that has given you enough to get started in Ableton and for you to see the potential of what you can accomplish in such a short space of time. If you want to keep learning in this start to finish style and make the rest of this track and learn how to record vocals and guitar, learn how to use the live features of Ableton, learn how to arrange your tracks, how to create loads more content out of the musical structure you've made, how to use the effects in Ableton to mix your tracks to perfection, and a whole load more, then check out the full course. It's cheap, especially for beginners, and by buying the course, you are supporting us and enabling us to keep making these really in-depth and detailed tutorials that take months of planning and execution, all for the sole purpose of giving you the best possible learning experience. All right, that's it from me. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you in the course.